Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds by nerds. I'm Nerdicus Dave, and today I'm joined by Ben Barsh from Nord Games. You're the community manager over there, but also
Yep.
like you're like born and bred into Pacesetter Games and
Yeah.
simulations as well, right? So that
Yeah, yeah.
like I don't know if you can get out of that one out without being excommunicated from the family.
No, I don't think that, but that's by choice as well, you know.
Yeah,
I'm kind of at the point where I committed myself a little bit too early when I was young.
yeah.
So now I'm just roped in for forever. It's like the family business between just me and my dad and then my sister who helps me package up all the orders.
So I guess real quick, if you want to just go into a quick rundown of like the elevator pitch
Yeah.
of who you are and kind of what you do.
Yeah, so like Dave said, I mean, I've been in the Dungeons and Dragons community since I was like in middle school. My dad has been in it for a while. He worked all the way back in like the 80s, very minorly and some writing, and almost worked with TSR, was like this close, and then they had their thing that
Yeah,
happened
yeah.
that the company got entirely shaken up. But you know, he worked for like Task Force Games, some relatively large but small game companies, and now you know owns his own brand, Pacesetter Games. And I joined him pretty much right when I was done with high school because I wasn't playing sports anymore, and I'm a person who can't sit still. So I was like, all right, time to jump right into the professional world. So I started doing, you know, just minor stuff. Like I said, my sister does like helps with our Kickstarter package ordering. I did that, went to conventions with him, and then I slowly got into writing and project management. And now here we are today. I graduate school right at the end of the year, and I'm working with Nord as their community manager. I've been very blessed to have that opportunity, and that's pretty much where I am today. Is essentially running Pacesetter and doing marketing for Nord. It's
So
like it's literally the best of both worlds.
how old were you when you kind of got into producing
Um,
third party products and producing gaming content?
so I was like 13 when I like started, or 14 or something like that. But that was like packaging orders and like maybe helping my dad with play tests and stuff like that. But the first time I actually wrote something, I was 19. I started writing it when I was 18. I was a freshman in college. And then man, because like the first show I ever did was actually this show way back then. Like
It's forever
it's
ago.
so
Yeah, the
it
first time around.
it's
So that's going
that was
back a
like
few
four
years.
years ago. It's like it was 3 or 4 years ago. I can't remember.
It was probably 20, like for us, like so much happened in 2017.
Yeah,
I
I
think it was
think
probably
no, it was
2017.
2018 because it was when I did my Disney internship. It was literally
Mm,
right before. Like I wrote it, went on the show, kickstarted it, and
yeah.
then I did my Disney internship, and then the books came while I was there. So yeah, I mean I was like 19 or just turned 20 when it like went to Kickstarter. So I was in there really at a young age, and looking back at that, I'm a very different person than I was when I was 19 and 20. So it feels
Yeah,
it
for
feels strange.
sure.
It feels cool, but it feels like a lifetime has happened in that time.
Do you have any advice for breaking into the industry other than nepotism?
Just do it. No, I'm joking. No, I think genuinely, if you're actually if that wasn't just a joke, I found my cartographer who does all of our work at a convention, and I know this is like kind of maybe tough advice for some people who can't go to conventions or anything like that, but really networking is the number one way. We were at North Texas RPG Con, which is a convention of like 400 to 500 people, tiny. And he just comes up to us at our booth and was like, "Hey, I do some art." And I was like, "Cool. Do you have a portfolio?" And he was like, "Well, I have like a Facebook page." And I was like, "Cool." So I pulled it up, and I was just stunned and hired him on the spot. And I think networking is the number one way to get a job really in any industry, but it's harder for us because we really only meet at conventions or maybe game stores, and that's if you're lucky enough to run into someone who like you know is in a position of hiring. So
Well, I
just
mean, even
putting yourself out
even
there is the number one way.
even going to school, a big part of what going to school for you does is the internship. If you get good internships, could change
Yeah.
the whole trajectory of your career.
Yeah, no, I know pretty much everyone I know right now, because I like I said, I graduate college at the end of the year, but all my buddies graduated this last like period. And pretty much I would say like 90% of the people I know graduated with an internship into a career. And everyone
Yeah.
knew that. Like everyone knew that our junior and senior year that this was the route that you had to go. And people either really worked hard to get there, or just kind of partied the rest of their college experience, and now they don't get to have the job that they wanted. So
Now,
it's
unfortunately,
really just
that's
where your
not
focus
really
is,
an
you know.
avenue in this industry, but a lot of other
No,
industries work
no,
that way. But
yeah,
but we do have the advantage that there are conventions that are open to the public that you can show up and network. Like I've always been a big proponent of networking and just getting to meet people, and trying to either have a drink or a meal with as many different people as you can. Like you never know what's going to be the thing that kind of breaks for you.
yeah.
And the number of people that it takes to make it in this world is literally like one. It's just the right person.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't even know if I used this verbiage back on this show or if it was another one, but I really just threw all the darts at the dartboard, you know, and that's really a fantastic way to get yourself an opportunity is email people, to message them on social media, because you might email 15 publishers, but if one bites, that's perfect. That's a fantastic start, and that's really all you need sometimes.
And now, like, we're in an age where, like, it doesn't even matter whether you're talking about gaming or filmmaking or writing books. Like, there's so much more that you can do as an individual. There, a lot of the
Yeah,
gatekeepers have been kind of removed. Like before, you had to get to the
yeah,
person that would decide whether or not you get to have a career or not. But here,
yeah.
in the creative fields now, it's like, well, if you can build your own audience, if you can find your own base, you can make the thing and just give it to them.
Yeah, and that's really what we had to do with Pacesetter. I mean, we're friends obviously with everyone. We're fantastic friends with like companies like Nord and Frog God, if you count Necromancer in there as well.
Yeah.
Which from the beginning they were all great with like, okay, we'll put your thing on our newsletter. But I mean, we built this thing by ourselves, you know, like we reached out to the artists, to the cartographers. Well, luckily a cartographer came up to me as a gift from God, because he's like my right hand man. Had to find proper editors who matched our style properly. You know, like there's a lot of trial and error that goes with it, and you just have to be willing to go for it, because if you don't, you're never gonna know. You could be the next Wizard of the Coast. Who knows?
Do you ever struggle with now, especially with Pacesetter, and you're doing a lot of project management? And I think you said you've done project management for other companies as well. You struggle?
Yeah.
Do you ever struggle with your age, where people are kind of like, "Ah, this friggin' kid"?
Um, at the start, yes. I feel like that was
You're young and you also
yeah,
look young, so
yeah, yeah. I think in the beginning, yes. Because that was something that's actually a really good question, dude. Like because I was super insecure about that. And I still am a little bit, you know,
yeah,
it's tough when you feel like you're not getting the respect from someone just based on age. That is something that I struggled with. But now that I've done like 8 Kickstarters and have never really had a major issue, I mean, they're sitting behind me right now. I think people have bought in a little bit to the
yeah,
fact
yeah.
that I can do this, you know, and I'm not saying I'm perfect, gonna make mistakes, but that's the point of building a proper team around you to catch you when you fall. And that's what we've finally gotten to. And it's a really, really good feeling once you're
So
there.
so how
So
many people are involved in Pacesetter now?
um every project, like 6 to 10, I would say. Um
And what is that compared to like when you started?
like 3.
Yeah. Nice.
So, I mean, you get a specialist in every position, right? Like you get
Mhm.
a specialist who does layout, who does editing, who does content editing, who does like the conversions. Like if we put out a book for Swords and Wizardry, then make sure we have someone who really knows the system, because I know the system, but I would rather have a specialist do it, right? I'd rather pay someone who is a professional at what they do. Artists, cartographers, yeah, writers, you know, paying writers to actually write books for us, so me and my dad don't have to write every book, you know.
Yeah.
It really depends on the project, but it's really grown from mom's basement to something a bit serious. So
So you're kind of like a Swiss Army knife in the RPG industry right now, in the sense that you do, the project managing, you've done the writing and design, but you've also done video content for Frog God, Nord Games, and also I believe
yeah,
Pacesetter as well.
yeah,
And so you've worked as I guess it's still like the creator space, but more on the like the
Mhm.
influencer side is instead of just the design side of things.
Yeah, I mean that was a sort of a conscious decision, I guess, back when I was younger, because I grew up with I was like not quite the iPad generation that people like, meme on the little kids nowadays.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I grew up with a computer in the den, we didn't have good internet. Like you could hardly get through a YouTube video without it buffering 100 times. But I grew up watching YouTubers promoting themselves and products. And when I stepped into the industry, I saw a void in publishers promoting themselves rather than just promoting their books. And that's totally okay. Like not everyone wants to be on camera. I've thought about it a million times too. Do I just want to be a designer and a project manager? Or do I want to put myself out there? And I saw the way to be a little bit different than everyone was to encapsulate or just to have those factors to me to make me more of an asset to not only my company and my friends and my coworkers, but to other companies as well.
it's kind of nice though that you also understand the different aspects. Like you understand if you're working with a creator or influencer, like what they have to
Mhm.
do in order to do it. Where like, sometimes you'll be working with a company or a brand and they're like, hey, we want you to do this, this, and this. And then a couple days later, they're like sending you another email. And I'm like,
Yeah.
nah, that's already done. Like we can't
Yeah.
go, we can't go backwards now. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, like I said in the beginning, I just really wanted to throw as many darts at the dartboard as possible. And
yeah.
hopefully one of them was going to stick. And I'm still doing that. Like I'm still trying to get better, and it's an everyday thing. Like if you get complacent one day with how you feel or where you're at or where your company's at, you're screwed. And that's really about it.
How much of it was throwing darts against the board to see what sticks, and how much of it was like figuring out like your voice and finding out what you actually wanted to do?
I think it's a pretty good split, right? Because like you said, I did kind of grow up in it a bit at a very at a time where people are deciding what they want to do with their lives, right? Like that's when you graduate high school or even during high school, that's when it's like game time. It's like, all right, what am I going to do? I don't have the security blanket of school anymore. Or
Yeah.
unless you go to college, obviously you have it for another 4 years. But I think that once I was fully into it, I really fell in love with it. There is really nothing like our industry for its good, for the good and the bad. there's not a whole lot out there like it, and it just feels like a family. And
Well,
I don't know.
also you kind of came of age at a good time too, right? Like
Yeah,
it'd have been a lot harder 10 years ago, you
yeah,
know,
100%.
to
Yeah,
leave school and do this full time, or 50, even 15 years ago, where now the industry has opened up a lot more where people can make a living, doing
yeah,
this.
yeah. And that's the thing is like I never the only time I took off for school was to do a Disney internship at the same time of doing all of this. That was when, everything, like I couldn't do that now. If I did that now, it would be like company suicide almost, or just career suicide,
Yeah.
because we've built from, doing a very small Kickstarter with like maybe 100 to 200 people to like 1,500 people. And when you have when the book quality goes from what it used to be to what it is now, it has to be your life. There's no other way about it.
So what is the difference between running Pacesetter and kind of like what you do for Nord?
There's a lot of crossover. Creating content would be the crossover, filming videos and all that kind of stuff. But the major thing is with Nord, I do a lot of marketing. With Pacesetter, I do a lot of the project management and writing. So they are very different at the end of the day. But still the same industry, which makes it great. We have a fantastic relationship at Nord. Like we're going to be working with them for distribution and all this kind of stuff. So there is like a pretty much like a partnership, if you want to call it that. I don't know. I guess that would be the word, between the two companies. So that helps a lot. It's not like we're at each other's throat to compete every second. We both believe that a rising tide raises all ships. And if you carry that mentality, it's kind of easy to balance both. But I do marketing for one, and then I would say just project management for the other, just in blanket terms, I guess.
Do you guys still do miniatures?
Yes and no. So
Hmm.
um, we're essentially selling off the rest of our existing inventory and moving to 3D printed. And we have, I probably should have just sent, I should have sent these assets, but I didn't think it's so new. Like we're moving into 3D models for all of our models, but also for all of our books, we're going to be doing like a set of STL files that match that book, right? So like the next book we have is called the Tome of Quest. It's, I think, like Tales of the Yawning Portal, an adventure compendium, that kind of thing. Every major antagonist from those modules in that book have an STL file with the big bad at the end. So we're moving into that instead of just physical miniatures. It's too hard to warehouse for a smaller company.
Yeah.
And
It's unfortunate. You guys had some
publisher
really
I've
great
talked to,
sculpts.
yeah, no, they're amazing, and we still have, you know, a good amount like in our warehouse, which is our garage and basement.
Yeah.
So we're pretty much, we bring them to conventions and sell them off there. And I've done a couple bundles on the website that have sold really well because it's kind of the last chance to get them. So I mean, we might reproduce them in, you know, maybe one miniature each for like maybe 100 at a time. But that's going to be about it.
I'm trying to see on the back on the shelf back there if I see any of them. They might just be off camera or off green screen, I should say.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say off green screen.
and also like the what's there might have moved anyway. I see like the little hint of one that might be around Mraz, but I'm not sure. So Brian wants to know: is there a Kickstarter bubble? Seems like just getting bigger and bigger, and with big brands using it regularly too.
How would you define bubble?
I guess when they like, you know, I guess like there's been a lot of velocity, and it's not all Kickstarters either though. So it's like definitely some like Dingo Doodles. She just did 2.5 almost on her Kickstarter, and there's been a bunch. Been a bunch. It's funny because like I remember like Seventh Sea was the first RPG to break 1 million on a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And it held for a long time. It felt like, and then Matt Colville topped it. And now I think I'd have to go to my toes in order to tick off all the ones that have done over $1 million. You know, so I guess what he's asking is, do you think
one that might pop? That's what I thought. I thought that because like the only reason, Brian, the only reason I asked that is because like there it sometimes can be like, I come from also the Disney bubble where like everyone pretends that nothing's wrong in the world. You just go to Disney World every day. Like, so that's what I thought you meant for a second. But I don't know. I think that it's here to stay as long as 5th edition is here to stay. And really what will determine if it pops or not is whether or not there's an OGL with 5.5 or 6th edition or whatever comes after from Wizards once they decide to fully move off of 5th edition. I think that would be the only thing that really pops it. I think it's a fantastic system for 99.9% of companies, and then that 0.01% of companies that use it with negligence puts a stain on everyone else. But I don't think that's a reason to jump ship and pop the bubble, essentially. And it's a great way for like a smaller company like me to be able to put out books, right? Like it would be very difficult if you didn't have Kickstarter to go from selling 50 copies or 100 copies to 1,000 copies. It would be, maybe the e-commerce would be different within the industry and there'd be other ways to do it, of course, but Kickstarter is a way for smaller companies to make sure that they don't go bankrupt on a project like how TSR did. If TSR had Kickstarter, they'd probably still be around. I guess that's
it allows a small company to fund its projects going forward. Like once a company hits a certain momentum, I honestly believe you're no longer really funding that project that's on Kickstarter today, right? You're probably
I would push back on that. It's people, because people see the number and like yes and no. So like if you're doing like 200, 300,000 on every book, maybe that's true, but producing a book is still super expensive, and to do it 6 times a year or something, you know, like how some companies do, that's a lot of money moving around to a lot of different people a lot of times, you know. And I don't know, I think that no one is too big to fall sometimes. Like big companies have had blunders. They've had, you know, like Paizo, like had Starfinder that just fell by the wayside and disappeared, like not throwing shade at anyone, but that's just kind of what happened. And not saying that that was a wrong project or anything like that. That's just what happened. And without a cushion for the smaller guys like us, it
Yeah.
would be very hard to take a blunder like that and keep moving forward.
Well, that being said, like, you have to get to a certain point of momentum. Like, I believe it was during a panel or an interview similar to this that I heard Shannon Germain from Monaco Games basically say,
Mhm.
like, our business model, in order to have like an old school kind of bullpen, is, and I'm paraphrasing, this is not exact
Mhm.
verbiage, is to, have 3-4 successful Kickstarters a year.
Yeah.
And they do that 200,000+ per Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And so that's where I kind of get the inclination that a company is that's doing, and also it depends too. Like, there's a difference between a company that does one Kickstarter a year or every other year, and a
Yeah.
Kickstarter that's doing multiple or a company's doing multiple Kickstarters in a year. If
Yeah.
a company's doing multiple, I think what you're really allowing them to do is fund the company forward for the year, more so than the specific projects. And I don't like, I think it's great that that opportunity's out there. Otherwise, it would be impossible for us small companies to grow.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely not denying that it's a part of the business model. Like it is the business model. It's an essential part. But I think without it, like if a company essentially did maybe 10 Kickstarters and finally got to the point of, over 100,000, maybe on the last two or whatever it is,
Yeah.
it would be foolish for them to step away. Um, they would not see those same numbers with just pre-orders
Oh
or,
yeah.
I
I'm not
mean,
saying, and I'm not
yeah, oh,
saying
I know
that
you're not. Yeah, I'm
companies should
just,
get to a
yeah.
point where they don't do Kickstarters. It just makes sense.
Yeah, because at the very least, you get your numbers on your Kickstarters, and then you know what to order. I mean, God,
Yeah.
like that's like the biggest thing is okay. Now, with Pacesetter, we're at a point where we have an amazing printer in the US who does offset printing with fantastic quality, but our 5e copies are getting the numbers where it would make more sense to go overseas. But do we want to make that? You know what I mean? And we would never
Yeah.
be able to make that decision without having something like Kickstarter to know our numbers going into post production. It would be impossible.
Well, it's a combination of that, and like Kickstarter has replaced pre-sales, right? Like,
Yeah,
that
it's
used
just a
to be,
pre-sale. Yeah.
that used to be the thing, for internet marketing. Internet marketers is like these big launches, and they pre-sell everything so that like what you need. And
Yeah.
and I've had this conversation with other, people that own companies, is like, it also lets you bring a product to market for a lot less to know if it's viable, right?
Yeah.
And when I say bring to market, I mean, like, put it before people, not necessarily produce it. Like,
Yeah.
you get through a portion of the process, you put it on Kickstarter, and then you find out if people want it or not, right?
Yeah.
Like, and if it doesn't kick, the people have spoken, right? Like, at least you didn't waste, tens of thousands of dollars to figure that out.
Yeah. And that tens of thousands of dollars for really anyone of this, like of a moderate size or smaller, would
Yeah.
be pretty much the end of the company. So like Brian said, like, yes, big companies definitely have their project slated out. So that way they have that cushion and they can get more guaranteed up front. But that also just makes sure people get paid for their work, right? Like, you get that money 2 weeks after you finish a Kickstarter. Most companies should have a fair amount of capital going into the project, but even if you don't, say you're a first or second time company, you can pay everyone right then and get working, or if they've already started working, pay them for their work, whatever it may be. So there's a lot of pros to using a platform like Kickstarter to do your production, or to rather fund your production.
Well, I don't think we're going backwards anytime soon. That's for
I don't
sure.
think so either. Like I said, I really think
We're getting more platforms, if anything.
we've been Pacesetter and Nord have been reached out to by Kickstarter like crowdfunding platforms that are
Yeah.
game centric. Just whether or not they have like the audience to compete. So there's a lot of movement. It's going to be interesting to see how it kind of shakes out.
Yeah, a friend of ours just used one of those successfully too. I might
Yeah.
add, it was like the best Kickstarter they've had. But then
Mhm.
there's also like all these other mitigating factors. So it's like, which one of the things made it happen, right?
Right.
Or
Yeah. So yeah,
combination.
a lot of the negotiation with those new platforms is like, can we put this on Kickstarter, then put it over here for like another round of pre-sale? And that's kind of like the main question.
Yeah.
Because an exclusivity agreement would be kind of tough with a new platform unless they pay you to have that exclusivity agreement to make sure that you're bringing them an
To
audience
make
too.
it, yeah, to make it work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like when Twitch was not top dog anymore for like 3 days, when YouTube gaming got huge, and then Microsoft had, oh my God, what is it called, Mixer,
Yeah.
and they started paying streamers to, obviously come stream on their platform, just to find it died like 2 months later. So
Yeah.
it's
As soon as
there's
they
like
stopped paying, it was
yeah,
done.
it's like, yeah, I've seen this before in other industries. I don't know if I want to move yet.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
uh,
Dave wants to know, Pacesetter, do you
yeah.
have any of the old Pacesetter licenses like the old board game Blackmorn Manor?
Yeah, so those a lot of those licenses are spread out, and that's what I've been trying to capture. But the people who own a few of them aren't interested in selling. It really kind of all it got all spread out, and that's kind of like the main issue with it, is a bunch of different people own it. Some people want to get rid of, want to actually produce that game. Some people just want to hold on to the license, which is totally understandable. But we don't own any of like the original games, the IP, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
So what's next for you when you finish? You said you're finishing up school this year.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna
Yeah.
have a lot more time on
Oof.
your hands. What are you gonna do at that time?
I can't wait, dude. I have been,
Are you going to Disney World?
yeah, it's like the end of the Super Bowl, and they
Yeah.
interview you, at commencement. They're like, where are you going next? I'm going to Disney World, because my school is literally 20 minutes from Disney World. I'll probably
Yeah,
drive
yeah.
over.
Although you've also spent
Um,
a lot of time at Disney World as well, so
yeah, it's lost its luster just a little bit, but no, it never will. I love that place so much. I don't know, like it's an exciting feeling for sure. My school I go to Full Sail University, if anyone knows what that is. It's an entertainment school, and you go month by month with different classes. So I'm technically done at the end of January. So I have two more courses. I have entrepreneurship in entertainment business, which is ironic as hell because I'm an entrepreneur in the entertainment business industry.
yeah.
And then I have another portfolio course. And I can't wait. I will be interested to see what life post school is. I'm sure it's going to be pretty damn near the exact same of what I'm doing now, but twice a week, a Wednesday night and Sunday night, I dedicate time to do homework, unless I have a massive project. So I'm assuming my life is going to be relatively the same, just without those panics at the last minute to get your stuff in before the deadline, which
Yeah,
will of course alleviate my mind a little
I
bit.
imagine like you're at that time of your life where you're kind of like supposed to be like enjoying school and stuff, but it sounds like you don't have a lot of free time.
No, I wouldn't say I have a lot of free time. I would say that even my free time is taken up. I don't know what podcast I was listening to this on, but it kind of opened my eyes to it. It's just like your mental capacity, or like the time that you have to think about things, right? Like I don't have a lot of mental time to myself where I'm not thinking about nor social medias, nor marketing, nor videos, Pacesetter books, Pacesetter Kickstarters, nor Kickstarters. Like it's running through my head at all times, and I can't turn it off, which I think is a huge pro and a huge con. Because even when I'm supposed to be relaxing, I'm not really relaxing. I'm like thinking about what the next step is. So I don't think that's going to go away with school. I think it might just get worse with with working full time. And really,
School. It turns out school was your distraction.
yeah. I mean, it really, at the end of the day, I'm not going to be able to be on my parents' insurance soon. So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
got to, you got to, I'm joking. I'm only half joking on that one, but you got to start making it worth the time that you spent in it. You know what I mean? Like I don't want all the time when I was 15 to be a waste. And that's sort of what I've been working for this whole time.
So you live in Florida now. Where you plan on settling? You going
So
back home afterwards, or?
ironically, I am back home right now.
Yeah.
We have, a ton of books where, before we go to Nord for fulfillment, we're still just pushing everything out of our basement. So I'm back in Michigan right now. I probably won't move back to Florida until March or February, even if I do, but I really think I'm not going to again. Like I said, I don't work for Disney anymore. Ironically,
Yeah.
they sent me an offer for a job, like a much better job. and Nord Games called me all at the same time in July. So that was sort of my decision making time, was whether
Yeah.
I want to just fully commit to D&D or still make that 50-50 split. And I was, it wasn't a much of a decision really. It was a pretty quick one. So no Florida for me right now. Just my sisters live there, so I, will go all the time. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna try my best to settle in one spot because I'm not
Yeah.
very
Well,
good at
I
that.
thought you were going to school there.
Oh, I finished online.
Okay.
They gave us an option with COVID, or like obviously we're still in it, but during the heat of it, they let me switch to the online track,
Yeah.
keeping my graduation date because they wanted to push it back for some reason. So once they agreed to everything, I just switched online.
Okay.
Because at that point, I only had once they opened up campus, I only had 4 or 5 months left in person. So I was like, I don't know. I feel like I've been doing this for a year and a half now. I don't want to switch it. So yeah, it's easier with how much work I do and stuff.
Yeah, I imagine it would be. I know, like for my son, when he went virtual, it was actually kind of easier for him, and the school actually gave him some of his money back. So
Yeah, it's a lot cheaper to do online school.
yeah.
Even with I had a ton of scholarships for the campus version. Even without those, which they didn't transfer to online, it was still way cheaper. So I was like, "Yep, we're doing that."
Yeah, yeah. Every penny helps. And then like the amount of time you save as well.
Yeah.
Like I mean, like, when he was doing virtual, all he had to do was roll out of his bed to his computer chair and he
Yeah.
was in school. And because he commutes, he doesn't live on campus, so it's not
Well,
a
I,
20
I don't
30
mean
minute
to
drive.
I don't mean to come across as a bad student, but I just really don't go to the Zoom classes anymore.
Oh.
They're not required. So
Yeah.
essentially, what the professor does, it just embeds it in the assignment. So if I really am struggling with something,
Uh-huh.
then I'll watch it. But a lot of it's like, create this commercial. Here's your template on how you would actually create your media treatment if you were going to pitch this to someone.
Yeah.
So I can just figure it out. I can follow the instructions and fill it out, film a commercial, and then go. So I don't need to sit there for 4 hours in a Zoom call.
So
It would be a waste of time.
so with everything you're doing, you actually get to play any games.
Yeah, yeah. When I'm in Michigan, yes. When I'm in Florida, really no.
Yeah.
Just because my free time shifts. When I'm in Florida, I'm going to the theme parks with my friends at the end of the day. It's funny because most of everyone there I know works for Disney or is an influencer. So
Uh,
their days, they actually have actual days off, right? Like they don't clock into work, but I work every day. So
yeah.
I'll meet them at 3 or 4 some days if I'm not as busy, but then 7 or 8 at night if I'm busy. Here it's all right, I just don't have anywhere to go. So I'm either going to finish working until midnight, or my buddies are going to come over and we're going to play Munchkin or D&D or whatever game we're playing that day. So yeah, I play a lot more games here. I'm also a huge World of Warcraft player. So I play a lot of WoW
People still play that?
still to this day. I know, right? Yeah. Yeah, we're pretty ancient.
I've never played World of Warcraft, the MMO.
It's double-edged sword because it's really fun, but it just sucks. It can suck the life out of you. It really can. It can take up a lot of your time.
That's
Which
why I avoid video games for that reason. When I
yeah.
played World of Warcraft, it was a real-time strategy game.
Oh, the old RTS game. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That and I used to play. So then I switched from that to StarCraft, and
Yeah.
I would play on the BattleNet where you just fight other random people.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm currently playing it's classic WoW. So they re-released vanilla. They did it 2 years ago, and then it went so well they re-released it again this time with a little bit of changes. So that just started 5 days ago. So I played a little bit of that. But I don't get to play until 10 o'clock at night when I'm done with things, or feel like I'm not going to be wasting time.
Yeah. Well,
So I don't get a lot in, but I get it in, when I want to.
did you back that Kickstarter from War Chief?
Of course I did. I did it within the first hour. I was so
Yeah,
pumped.
yeah.
I was so pumped.
So I mean, I feel like that guy went and made a game based off of D&D, became a gazillionaire, and now is going to make even more money from taking the
Yeah.
D&D stuff and turning it in, and also it's starting at such a high level.
Yeah,
As
I mean,
far
for
as
people who don't know, essentially some of the lead designers from Blizzard who worked on WoW and StarCraft and all these games.
It was
Left
one of
Blizzard.
the founders, right? Like it was
Yeah,
the
yeah,
founder.
Chris Metzen. Yeah. And essentially went and made a tabletop games company and crushed it on Kickstarter on their first project. I hope that, and I say this with some hesitancy because I obviously love tabletop role-playing games, but I would love if one day they made an MMO around the world they're building. I think that would be amazing. I think they would be the only ones in a position to really dethrone Blizzard. But because a lot of the good designers have left Blizzard. Like I only play it because it's the old game, which I love. I don't really play the new stuff. And obviously they have a million issues as a company that need to be settled in the courtroom. But I don't know. I'm looking forward to that. I don't even Ouroboros. I can't even remember how to say it.
That sounds about right.
Yeah,
I mean, I didn't back it. I just saw. I've backed off on backing Kickstarters.
Yeah.
Since like, I had like a pledge update notification. I went and it was from Bonnie Cook Games, and it was like,
yeah,
you got all this stuff here. And I was like, oh, I guess I should get this. And like I did, and like 2 boxes showed up, and it was from like multiple Kickstarters because they don't go away on there. And I'm like, I wonder how many Kickstarters I've backed and I just never gotten this stuff. Not because the companies did anything wrong, just because like I back it and forget about it.
I forgot to do the survey. Yeah. We have some people who back our stuff and then they forget to fill out the surveys. And if it goes a while, I'll email them personally and be like, hey, you bought this. Like, I would love to ship it to you, but I can't ship it to you for free. So can you go fill that out? You know, I try to make sure everyone gets their stuff, but
inevitably it does not matter how many emails you send out. Inevitably there will be people that do not fill out the backer survey, and then they'll be angry later and be like, I never got my stuff. I'm like, did you fill out the thing? What are you talking about? Well, exactly.
It's tough because you want to, as a publisher, you want to make it as easy as possible on the backer, but you also have to make it as easy as possible on yourself. So we use like BackerKit for our post game survey essentially. And that's because it's so known in the Kickstarter culture that BackerKit is widely accepted. I don't like how Kickstarter has their setup. They've made some improvements on it. I still think BackerKit is the number one way to go. So I make sure we send it out. We do the smoke test, make sure everything works right, send it out. I post links in the updates. I respond to comments, or I'll just comment on the page that it's there, post it to our social, like I post it to our email list. I make sure everyone knows that it's out. And I don't really say like, you have to do it in 2 weeks. Just say like, we're shipping now, or like in a week, or however long. Please fill it out before then. You want to try to rush people to try to like incentivize them getting there fast, but also don't want to rush people because sometimes people don't have the money to do it right away. So yeah.
Well, I mean, for us, it wasn't even that. It was like we collected shipping at the pledge. So it was just a matter of like, okay, you need to give us your information so we can give you your stuff now. And trying to get that out. And then, like, I had used a small company and they had helped with us, and they kind of did their own pledge manager. And and they realized it was kind of a mistake, because what they found was all the Kickstarters that they've helped people with never go away. Like there's always like customer service stuff. There's always people. It doesn't matter how long ago the Kickstarter was. There's someone that's going to be like, I didn't get my stuff. And it's always, and not always, but generally it's because like they didn't do something on their end.
Yeah, no, I've like I said, that first project I did when I came on your guys' show, I think 6 months ago, we got an email saying that they never got it. And I opened up the backer kit and I was like, yeah, you didn't fill out this backer kit in 2018. Here's your link. Would you like it still?
I know Brian Smith is fishing for dirt. Are your influencer friends worth following? Be honest. I think
you can follow Nerdarchy at
probably depends on what kind of influencers they are.
Like, I mean, if you're talking about my Disney friends, then I would obviously say yes to, and anyone I know, anyone who I'm friends with as an influencer, I believe is worth following. I was in like Disney, and even with a D&D industry, sometimes I find it really hard to pretend. And I've been so
Yeah.
lucky that I have not run into really not a single person in the D&D industry where I'm like, I don't like you.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I make it easy. I don't really follow much of anyone what other people are doing.
yeah,
Well,
I
you
think
know what?
that's a fine way to do it. That's what
Somebody
I, you know,
somebody said to me, and it just makes the most sense. It's like you can either consume content or you can create it. Create it.
yeah,
Most people are
there's
not
no in
going to do
between.
both.
I know. When I was making, you know, I was heavy into like making TikToks. I wasn't watching it at all. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, my friends would be like, "Have you seen this trend?" I'm like, "No." I can you tell me though? So I'll go do it now. But
Yeah.
no,
Well, so
yeah,
I will check out like TikTok. Like I like
yeah,
because I like it because it's short content over there.
yeah,
So like, and also it's like mindless, right? Like you don't go and seek it out; it finds you basically. Um, which also seems like a terrible way to like be a content creator and have people get to your stuff.
yeah,
But but as far as like YouTube stuff, a lot of times when I'm watching YouTube stuff, it's not like it's not D&D stuff.
yeah, yeah. I watch a lot of well, right now I'm watching a lot of Survivor. So that's like all the that's the TV show I'm consuming right now. I don't really watch a lot. But like you said, if you're making content, you don't really have time to watch it. So when I meet people like down in Disney,
Hmm.
at first when I started, I was like, man, I want to be friends with everybody. And then I
Yeah.
was like, I want to keep the circle small. Like I will be friends with them. I will never be mean to someone ever. Like I'm not gonna, you know, have that attitude with anyone. But at the end of the day, I have my best friends since I've been friends with kindergarten here. I have some fantastic friends in Florida who are amazing to me. And I just don't need to feel like I'm in the cool kids club. Like I've never
Yeah,
really
yeah.
had that feeling. So yes, I know Thomas Valley. That guy is just one of the nicest people I've ever met in my entire
Yeah,
life.
I
And I
feel
know
like
him
you
a
would
lot.
know him not
Yeah.
even from Disney, but from Gamehole Con and Gary Con because I know you hit
Yeah.
Gamehole Con every time. Do you hit Gary Con?
Yeah. 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 We
Yeah.
met at so we met through my friend Fenway Jones. I believe that's how we met. I'm not positive. We might have just met at a convention just cuz. But
Yeah.
she runs a charity called Jasper's Game Day, who works heavily or has worked heavily with Adventurers League and the AL Hall. So I met Thomas and then, you know, told him I was going to Disney for an internship. He was like, I live at Disney. I was like, that's awesome. We're going to hang out. So ironically, my first week of my college program, um, all of my friends were going to they were going to Magic Kingdom to go hang out. And I was like, this is a very good. And then Thomas invited me to be in his D&D game the same night. So I was
Yeah.
like, okay, so do I go become like really good friends with my new friends or do I play D&D? I was like, I'm going to go play D&D. So I went over to Thomas's and they accepted me into their campaign, rolled some dice with them. And I'm
Nice.
very grateful for that because that was a really, really, really nice thing for him to do. And we've stayed in touch and he's just an awesome guy.
What is the next convention you'll be at?
DeerCon. DeerCon in March and then Gamma, the Gamma trade show in March as well. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it's in March.
Hmm.
Gotta check the schedule.
No PAX Unplugged then.
No PAX Unplugged, not this year. No. Yeah,
Uh,
I want to get to PAX, to Total Con. I want to get back to Origins if I can. There's a couple of places that I want to be at.
yeah, I guess it'll be easier once you're done school too, so that'll like free up your schedule of the shift things around.
Yeah. I was always looking forward to convention weeks while I was in school because I was like, man, I get to leave school early to go to a
Oh.
convention. This is great.
Yeah.
It
What is
was
the
the same
first
thing
con you
with,
ever went to?
so it was technically Gen Con. I was a bit out of my element. I
Yeah.
was and I wasn't because I've been a huge gamer since you know, whether that's video games or tabletop games since I was a kid. And I pretty much sat in the auction hall at Gen Con pretty much the entire time with my dad and ran our booth. And then North Texas was my first, you know, real con where I felt, you know, I was a part of it and into it and stuff.
Where you
So
were conscripted?
yeah, so I went from a 40,000 person convention to a 400 person convention. So that was a bit of a getting both ends of convention life.
Yeah. And how old
That
were
was
you
good.
at the first convention?
I want to say I was maybe 16.
Okay.
So I was, you know, I was a bit older, I guess, if you can say maybe 16 or 17. I can't remember quite what
I
I was.
mean, my first gaming convention I went to, was it was like 2015 or 2016.
Mm,
We'd already been doing Naruki for a little while, and
yeah.
they tried doing like, a new convention called Philly Games Con, which it was kind of, it was decent and small, but it didn't make it past 1 year.
Mm,
Um, and I, I actually had gotten to meet a lot of like more local people from doing that. But that had been
yeah.
my first gaming convention. I think when I was a kid, I think my dad had taken us over to like Wizard World in in Philly when I was a teen, and there might have been like a couple pop um, cons, which I don't really,
Mm,
I really don't like them, and I don't feel like there's anything there for me when I go to those. It's like, oh, you basically, there's walking around the floor and panels that I mostly don't care about, and like you can stand in line and pay some famous person to take a picture with you, I think.
yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm a bit still on the fence if I'm going to it's called C2E2 in Chicago,
Uh-huh.
which is like a comic book convention. I've really only ever gone to D&D conventions. And
Yeah.
I traveled me and my buddies played competitive esports for a while. I was a top rated Call of Duty player actually for a while, and then League of Legends we competed at some tournaments, so we like drove to some tournaments in Ohio or whatever,
Yeah.
which was at like an anime convention,
Yeah.
and we weren't there for the anime convention, we were
Did you
just there
age
for the
out?
tournament.
Thumb injury? What
So
happened? What happened to your career?
I figured I had a better shot at Dungeons and Dragons than
Yeah. Yeah.
I was never the in League of Legends, I was never the best player. Call of Duty, I was just turned off by the community. Pretty
Yeah.
much everyone who was a really top rated player has left the community. It's really toxic and it's really hard to be a part of.
It just feels
Um,
like video games for the most part, but I mean,
yeah, but like the
League of
competitive
Legends
pro
community
scene,
wasn't great, and I also sucked at it.
no,
Uh,
the like the in-game community is not great, but
yeah.
like it's just whether or not the like competitive scene is a bit more healthy, and you just have to go to where that, like, like Call of Duty was brutal, like people doxing each other, like really fucked up stuff. Excuse my language. I don't know if I'm
Yeah.
allowed to swear in here, but
You
uh,
got your one F bomb in.
I
Boom.
got my bad, guys. My bad. We'll bleep that out in
See how
post. We're not gonna
see
bleep that out in
Yeah,
post.
yeah. See how toxic that community is. Look, like you just bring
It
it up
came
and
out
it's
of me,
like,
bro. I was so upset. It got to me. No, but yeah, I just would rather have played
how
DD. But
how far away do you think we are before parents start like pushing their kids into esports, like they do with regular sports? I remember, so I worked as a trainer for a while, like 20 years ago at this point, almost 20 years ago, 15 years ago. And I remember like I would train these swim moms, and like they were nuts. They were
yeah.
absolutely insane. They're great people, but like I remember I was like, well, when do your kids like swim for fun? And they look, the look that they gave me. I had to curl up into myself.
Yeah, I think really it's just going to take my generation having kids. I think that'll be the first one that kids are brought up as if it were a sport. And
Yeah.
I see this with and I say that because I'm Gen Z technically, by barely Gen Z, and millennials grew up with games, but they didn't really compete, right? Like they didn't have that competitive scene where on the weekend with their buddies, they could drive to a tournament and go win 2 grand at the age of 16. Like they didn't have that, but
Yeah.
my generation did, and it wasn't super accepted when I was. Parents were still really on the fence. Like my parents were considering, they didn't even really want me to compete in online tournaments because they were like, we don't know what this is. But now my generation knows what this is. Like we know,
I try it out a
and
little bit. Like I pressure my
it's
kid a little bit and be like, "You're a great disappointment. Why aren't you?"
it's yeah, it's it's really it's just at the end of the day it's going to come from like parent and school support. Like there's
Yeah.
like school support, I say, because there's school sports leagues, like you can play for your local middle school or your local elementary school. Even if not, there's the rec league that's attached to it. It's going to take the same thing for gaming. It's just that's really it. And the
Are
stigma
there
has
any
fallen
e
away a bit.
teams for like
Yeah.
for, oh yeah,
Oh
it's
yeah, yeah.
crazy.
There's my best friend who I've known since kindergarten got a college scholarship to play League of Legends, but it wasn't enough for him to want to go to that school, so he didn't go.
Uh-huh.
And high schools too have teams now. The high
Yeah.
school that I went to, I believe, has started a team or wants to start a team. And
Yeah,
since I
I
moved
know
back
it
to
was at the
Michigan, I'm
college
like, I'll
level.
coach. Like and it's starting to come into high school a bit more. Middle school and lower, it's going to take a while. But
Pee-wees, man.
I
You got to get them into Pee-wees. Like, they're never going to get to the Olympics. They're never going to make it happen.
well, I'm frustrated with my younger cousin Gaetano. I don't think you're going to watch this, but
Yeah.
he's very good at everything, and it bothers me because
Yeah.
I wasn't good at it. Like, I mean, I was okay at everything, but he since he was 6, he can play music by ear. He's great at baseball. He's good at basketball. He's athletic. He's brilliant, like top student in Michigan percentile for like standardized tests. And as soon as I started playing video games with him, he was good. And I was like, of course you are. And he plays some Rocket League, and he's like pretty high ranked in Rocket League for being a 14-year-old. And I'm like, dude, if you ever get annoyed with baseball, I will coach you in League of Legends, and you will be the next.
You're throwing away your life, kid. Just stop with that baseball and education stuff.
No, you are. And once it's seen as like a extracurricular, like how baseball or like football is,
Yeah.
it won't be supported by parents, and then kids won't have a chance to get training at an early young age. I mean, it's just crazy to me that people
I'm
think
just waiting for the
gaming or a
psycho
video
parents.
game
I'm
is.
living for that.
Well, I think it's going to take them going away to get it because they
Yeah.
see it video games as a plague or whatever. But you don't care if you strap up your kid in a football helmet and he has CTE by the age he's 23. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the double standards, I guess, is what I'm going for. Is just confusing sometimes, but who knows? It's just going to take a bit. It's the satanic panic of esports is just convincing parents to get on board, but
they will. And then you're gonna regret it, because because you're gonna have the psychotic parents, and like there's a couple parents that I've dealt with, and it's like one of them, like one of their kids was in gymnastics, and they're like really talented and really good, but like they're like really young, and the parents are like talking about Olympics and stuff. I'm like, hard eye roll.
yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of parallels, right? Like there's a lot of parallels between, like, in sports, there were the kids who had like classical correct training since they were young, like their parents paid for them to be in lessons and stuff and on better teams. And then there's the kids that are just like naturally gifted, and the kids that are naturally gifted fall off after a certain amount of time because they aren't putting in that work to do it the right way. And the kids who have been doing it the right way, while they might not be as good as the talented kid at the time, they'll overtake them eventually. And that's been the case since I was playing sports. It's the same case for my cousins who are playing sports right now. And it's going to be the same case for kids who are playing video games. There's going to be kids who are supernaturally talented and can play the game mechanically super well, but they're not going to have the coaching to take them to that next level. And that's really what it's going to turn into, I think. And that's what the parallels that I've seen.
It's kind of funny. Like, I used to work with a guy he immigrated from Australia, and he was like the second youngest professional soccer player from Australia. He was the youngest, but someone bumped him off. But it was like before they actually made money. So, like, it didn't really mean anything. Like, he's like, it was great. I could buy all my friends like juice boxes and stuff in school, but like compared to now. And then he later became a soccer coach, and he kind of did that for a living. And talking to him, like all these kids, they'll do like a sport, they'll do the school team, the travel team, and then it's like you kind of like you're talking about, like the injuries start mounting up because one, like the younger generations would play all the sports, right? So they would get well rounded, and they wouldn't just be like overdeveloping just certain parts of their bodies, and creating these overuse injuries. Someday we'll get there with video games. We'll be able to break our children with those as well.
I'm glad that I played like 3 or 4 sports growing up, and I'm glad I did, because like you said, I was able to overall develop instead of just hyper into one sport. And then once that gets pulled away from you, you're lost in the world. Like, you have no idea what to do.
What do you do? It becomes your identity.
Yeah. I'm glad that I didn't specifically have that issue, but
we're also starting to get a lot more like crossover with D&D. Like, are you familiar with Dungeon Coach?
I've heard it, but I don't really know.
Yeah, so he's just another YouTuber, but like he's a track and field coach at a high school, and like all of his players like playing his D&D games.
Oh, awesome!
All of his athletes, and it's like it's so weird to hear that, coming from. When I was in school, like the first rule about gaming goes, we don't talk about gaming.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it comes up all the time now. I think
Yeah,
the stigma is damn near completely gone. Like I know people from high school who I would have maybe considered like a jock or a Chad, someone who might be a
yeah,
bit more predisposed to looking down on someone, maybe, that's, I'm not trying to pass judgment. I'm just saying that that's perhaps what the stigma could be, who
yeah,
are very interested in gaming and very interested in tabletop gaming and have sort of seen a way to release that side of them and just accept it and be a part of it. And I think something going viral like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like Star Wars, like these things have made it more okay to be a nerd, like it's because it was more pop culture or whatever. So it's definitely helped, I think, across all ages because like you said, my dad used to be like bullied for liking D&D, and now people come up to me and want to play in a game. Like I
yeah.
don't get bullied for it. I've never had someone throw stones at me because of that. Um, so it's a weird culture shift, but I'm glad it happened because I don't think my generation would have stood for it much. I think we would have fought back extremely. Not saying you guys didn't. I'm just saying like now with like social media and everything like that.
It was funny because like one of the like early gaming groups for us that and Ted was in, like those guys were also LARPers and they would LARP, and we would like go to my buddy's apartment and we'd play there. So like we
Yeah.
ranged from like high school to like just out of college for age ranges. So we were waiting for him to get home
Yeah.
from work one day, and they were like they had their LARP gear, so they start breaking it all out and having LARP battles in his front yard essentially.
Yeah.
And he comes home and he's like, if you guys ever do that shit again, I'm gonna there are some threats.
Oh no. No, no, no. Yeah, I grew up with airsoft instead of LARP. We
Yeah,
grew up
I think
shooting
well that
plastic BBs at each other.
in the US especially, that's way more socially acceptable.
Yeah, no, I cannot believe that is still a thing. I get it kind of, but like, man, I know my parents didn't love that I was doing it, but damn, we have some woods back there, like back in my neighborhood, and we would
Yeah.
go back there and we'd be like SEAL Team 6 on each other. It was just unbelievable what we were pulling off. So I don't know.
Nice. Nice. So when you finish up school, any plans to ratchet up your gaming?
So what?
To ratchet up your gaming once school's done?
Ratchet up? Sorry, I don't know.
Yeah, ratchet up, increase,
What does
make
that
do
mean?
more.
Increase? Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
was like, yeah, of course that's the goal. I would like to be at like right now, my buddy who I went to high school with runs a campaign on Sundays, and I can't go just because I'm just too busy. So I'll hopefully join that as a player, which will be awesome because I'm the forever DM of my group and I never
Yeah.
get to play. I want to do a night at my local game store running D&D. They do I haven't talked to them since I've moved home. I moved home like a week ago, but they do like a newcomer D&D night every Tuesday, I think. So I want to get involved with that, get Nord and Pacesetter involved and DM some games for people if they want to try it out, all that kind of stuff. That's what I'm super interested in. I'm always interested in trying to get new players involved, and that's a good vehicle to get people into it.
Does Nord have any plans to do any like stream games?
It's something we've talked about. I don't know yet. I would like to, but I think right now we're focused on the content we're doing now and making sure that we create a good foundation of content and viewers within our own customer base and viewers, in the D&D industry as a whole. And I want to move into that eventually. I think right now it would be a really big time sink to focus on that for so long every week, but I want to build up that base a bit more. So yes, but not right now.
Cup's making fun of me, my old school, my old guy language. uh, so we were just about up on the hour
Yeah,
mark.
that got me. That I
Yeah,
actually,
ratchet. You know,
you
yeah.
really threw a wrench in my. I don't know. I don't know, man. I'm done. That's it.
It's fine. It's fine.
Oh,
Oh,
man.
you kids, goddamn kids, get off my lawn. Uh, Speaking of which, we're right up on the hour mark. Final thoughts before
Yeah.
we head on out.
Can I promote something in the last minute?
Yeah,
Am I allowed to do that?
yeah. Also, links are in the description, people. As
Yeah,
always.
links in the description. Obviously, go check out Nord Games and Pacesetter on social media. if you like my personality, my ADHD, if you will, the Nord Games YouTube channel is a good place to find me. So I'm constantly talking about random shit, but
Yeah.
I swore again, Dave. It's your fault.
I know we got show and tell here. What do we got?
We got show and tell. So if you are a D&D player, or if you want to get into D&D and you don't have a group, you can play solo. If you ever read a Pick a Path adventure book growing up, this is exactly like that, but with Dungeons and Dragons. You go through, it's a solo adventure for characters level 1 to 5 using the 5th edition rule set. You start at 1, you finish at 5. Sequels coming out next year. And it's just some solo D&D goodness. You play as your character, you play as the monsters as well, so you're kind of rolling against yourself. There's checks in there like investigation, like perception. It includes all of that kind of stuff. So if you're looking to support me or the dream, then you can go pick this up. Links in the description for some solo adventure. Obviously, there's the PDF and then the physical version as well. So
solo adventures always bring out the worst in me. I'm just like, I just want to market it like, hey, do you want to play D&D but you have absolutely no friends? Well, here you go.
Yeah, no, the reason I wanted, this has been like the however many years I've been in the industry, this is the thing I've been working towards, because I started because I didn't really have a group to play with other than like my dad, and once I got my childhood friends in, I was playing solo. I was playing the old school TSR solo adventures and stuff my dad wrote. So this is like a very long time coming for me, and it's a really good feeling to have it in person, because
nice, the passing of the torch, if you would.
I just want to sit here with it. That's really about it.
Nice. Cool, that's awesome.
Yeah, if you're interested, then it's on the website. It's $25 for over 144 pages of content. There's 3 different branches, and then within those branches of play, there's alternate outcomes and all that kind of stuff. So there's a ton of adventure packed in here for $25. So I wanted it to be like pretty affordable. I didn't want it to be like a $50 hardcover or anything like that.
Nice. Well, down in the description, I believe there's a link for that as well, so folks can go check that out. And I want to thank you for coming on, Ben. And until the next time, everyone, stay nerdy.
Peace.